Oh, oh, has this been the video I've been waiting to make? As you guys have seen, there's plenty of Pikmin videos on my channel, but this is the video I originally wanted to make ever since they announced the Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Hey, Nintencisco here. Today, we're going to be talking about Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, the story recap, the story so far, so that you guys are caught up for Pikmin 3's release tomorrow. Full disclaimer, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. This is the full recap of what happens in 1 and 2 and leading to 3. I'm not going to talk about 3 at all. That's all for you guys to play, but I'm catching you guys up on 1 and 2. Again, spoilers. I go into the story, I go into the ending, I go into all of that. If you guys want to play the game for yourself, I do recommend that. The story is simple, yes, but you know how it always is. You have to play through it to get the full grasp of it. Pikmin, the story, although simple, it can be very emotional, and it's an adventure, and just you get a full grasp of how heartful the series is, with like the Pikmin and how they came from extinction, and Olimar and his journey, and the things he had to do to survive. And the other thing I want to say is, for Pikmin 3, you technically don't need to know the full story. You can play Pikmin 3 and be completely fine. You'll be a little confused, but overall, you'll be fine. So if you want to play Pikmin 3 and then play Pikmin 1 and 2, you are completely fine. It will work out. Anyways, let's get into the story of Pikmin 1 and 2. So we're starting off with Pikmin 1. Pikmin 1 starts with our hero, Olimar. You might know him from Smash Brothers, from the Pikmin series, but he is the main character of Pikmin. He comes from a planet called Hecate, and for his company, Hecate Fright, he ended up getting hit by a meteor and crash landed on the uncharted planet. Olimar's ship, the SS Dolphin, came crashing down into a bunch of pieces. In the game, it's 30 different pieces that you have to collect. Olimar fell and was unconscious, but when he woke up, he was on this planet that he didn't know. Turns out, the planet has oxygen, which is very poisonous, very toxic to his species. Now, Olimar has a life support system, but it's only gonna last 30 days. You have 30 days to collect the 30 pieces of his SS Dolphin so he can make it back to his planet. As he shakes it off and he walks a couple steps, he sees his ship, the SS Dolphin, destroyed, battered, missing all the ship parts that it needs to get out of that planet. Oh, what is he gonna do? He has 30 days, his ship doesn't even work. How is he gonna get back home? Well, he takes another couple steps. Next thing you know, he sees this weird, giant, plant-like thing that sprouts out a seed. He calls this thing an onion, as it looks like one of the famous foods they eat back on his home planet. Now, when he picks the plant, the seed sprouted into a little leaf. He plucked it, and next thing you know, we got the Pikmin. Now, the Pikmins look like a pick carrot, which is another famous food that are on his planet. So, Olimar decides to call them Pikmin. Cute. Olimar figures out that using his whistle, he's able to command the Pikmin to go and follow his commands. Olimar commands the Pikmin to go and fetch this plant-like item called a pellet. And what it does is when it goes into the onion, it sprouts more Pikmin. Slowly but surely, Olimar starts getting an army of Pikmin, a small army, and he is able to bypass some of the obstacles that are in that area. He then finds a ship part. This ship part is the main engine, and that is what he needs to get off the planet. It won't be able to get him off the planet entirely, but it would be able to get him into the air, so he's not there where all the danger's at. Just in time, right when nighttime arrives, he is able to go back up to the air, and to his surprise, the onion follows him. I guess he doesn't want to get eaten by all the strange monsters that are lurking at night. In the morning, Olimar lands into this new area called the Forest of Hope. And here, he's able to find that the Pikmin have followed him. While he landed with the SS Dolphin, the onion came and followed right next to him and landed with him, and the Pikmin were there ready for his command. Why are the Pikmin listening to him? Why do they follow him? Well, Olimar believes that it's because he picked them out of the ground, and because of that, they see him like a parent figure. It also believed that the Pikmin simply need a leader. They were extinct. As you will know that if you lose all your Pikmin, it'll end the day early and say Pikmin extinction. And the next day, the onion will sprout one seed, showing that unless they have a good leader, the Pikmin can't survive. They're extinct. So meaning that one seed that Olimar found was probably the last of its species. Day by day, obstacle by obstacle, area by area, monster after monster, Olimar is finding ship parts that are contributing to making the SS Dolphin back in full health, ready to take him off the planet. Throughout these areas, throughout the new regions, he's able to find new Pikmin. For example, in the Forest of Hope, he is able to find the yellow Pikmin. In the Forest Navel, he's able to find the blue Pikmin. These Pikmin have different perks. See, the red Pikmin are immune to fire and they do more damage than any other Pikmin type. The yellow Pikmin can carry bomb rocks. They're able to break down walls and destroy other enemies. And the Pikmin are very light. Here, I have a yellow one right here. With their flappy ears, they're able to fly so high up in the air. If you see a ship part that's so high up and your red Pikmin or blue Pikmin can't reach it, chances are, yellow one's for the job. The blue Pikmin are able to go into the water. See this little mouth he has? Those are his gills, and he's able to breathe. His also secondary ability is that if there are other Pikmin that are drowning, he is able to grab those Pikmin and toss them out of there. Wow, a lifeguard. That's awesome. Olimar is not just your shallow, silent protagonist either. See, with every passing day, Olimar talks about what happens. See, he talks about his discoveries of the Pikmin. He makes note of everything. But he also talks about missing his family. He talks about how he's hoping that he will have the ship parts, that he will survive because he wants to see his family again. Whew, that's pretty deep, man. I think while playing through Pikmin 1, you really start to bond with Olimar. You start to root for him. You start to see that he's afraid. You start to see that he also is feeling bad about the Pikmin. There's so many jokes about Olimar just killing off Pikmin and not thinking anything of it. In Smash Brothers, you know, Pikmin are dying and it's almost like a joke. Even in the Pikmin shorts, Pikmin die and it's considered a joke. But in Pikmin 1, Olimar really treats it like it's almost war. He treats it like, wow, my fallen soldiers, my comrades. He talks about how he feels bad when the Pikmin are getting killed. He talks about how he needs to be a better leader. And he talks about things like if a yellow Pikmin is holding a bomb and he doesn't command it right and the bomb blows up and kills the Pikmin, he will literally talk about how the Pikmin gave him one last scared look as it blew up. Wow, and he said the horrors and how he will never be able to get the image out of his head. That's really deep, that's really crazy. Finally, the last ship part is inside this humongous monster called the Emperor Bulblax. It's a tough battle, it'll take you pretty much all day. And if you don't know what you're doing, oh, it is quite a tough battle. Upon beating the Emperor Bulblax, Olimar finally has all the pieces that he needs to get off this planet. He says one final goodbye to the Pikmin. They all look at him and say, oh, here's our goodbye. Olimar gets into the ship, takes off, and heads back to his family. He gives one last look down at the Pikmin as they all say goodbye. It's interesting because, you see, as he's leaving, next thing you know, there's all these kinds of onions following him. We started the game off with 3 onions, and yet you see the screen full of them. Now this can mean 2 things. This can mean that the planet is full of different Pikmin types, you know, foreshadowing for all the different Pikmin types we'll see in the future. Or, this is what I like to think. I like to think that those were all the souls of the Pikmin. Not just saying farewell, but thanking Olimar for bringing the species back. Because, you see, there's 3 onions, and they were all showing that the blue Pikmin, the yellow Pikmin, the red Pikmin, they were all extinct. Meaning, Pikmin were pretty much extinct, almost completely. The onions were the last line of defense. So I like to think that all those onions were probably like the souls of the onions, the spirits, right? Coming up. I mean, when the Pikmin dies, the soul comes out. So it just makes sense that at the end, it's all the spirits of all the fallen onions and Pikmin that are thanking Olimar as he came back to bring them back to the food chain. Well, it's a happy ending. Olimar is finally heading back to his home planet. Good for you, Olimar. Which brings us to our next game, Pikmin 2, which is actually my favorite in the whole entire series. Oh man, Pikmin 2. Ooh. Olimar finally makes it back to his planet in the SS Dolphin, and he lands at Hocotate Fright, his company. He lands and he meets with the president of the company, and the new employee, Louie. The president has to break some really bad news to Olimar, and that's that the company is in a huge amount of debt. The story is apparently there's a space monster that came to Louie's ship and ate the whole entire cargo of Pick carrots. And they had to take out loans to basically repay all that. And, ooh, it is about 10,100 Pokos. Pokos is the currency in Hocotate, by the way. 10,100. Okay, doesn't seem so bad. It's $10,000. They're multi-billionaires, right? Well, on this planet, 10,000's like a lot. One of the things they had to do to repay the loan was sell off the SS Dolphin. Yup. That ship you worked so hard for to put together in Pikmin 1 was sold off to save the company. And it didn't even do anything either. We're talking about they sold this amazing ship, top of the line. And what happened? Barely budged the loan. Barely repaid any of the debt. Olimar couldn't believe it. And he has a souvenir in his hand that he brought for his son. A bottle cap. Like a soda bottle cap. He drops it. The company fright ship is starting to respond to it. It then says that it's worth 100 Pokos. That's worth more than a year's salary. Jeez! If 100 Pokos is worth more than a year's salary, then 10,000 is quite a lot. The president can't believe his eyes. 100 Pokos worth more than a year's salary on that one little bottle cap? He said, "Get back out there, son. You're gonna collect all this treasure and we're gonna repay this loan. We're saved." And he says, Louie! Follow that man, follow Olimar. You guys are going onto that planet and getting all the treasure. So Olimar and Louie get onto the Hocotate Fright. Sadly, no SS Dolphin. While our favorite hero Olimar and his new pal Louie are heading to this planet, something goes wrong. Olimar and Louie have a tough landing and Louie falls off the ship. How did that happen? It just kind of stabilizes and then the Hocotate Fright ship lands. Olimar gets off the ship and looks around. He sees that the Pikmin are fending for themselves. They're actually attacking Dwarf Borbor. Olimar uses the whistle to command them, and they remember Olimar. Louie, on the other hand, is somewhere else, but it's okay. He gets the hang of it. The Pikmin, they look at him. They're like, who's this guy? But, you know, using the same controls, using the whistle, Louie figures it out himself as well, that he can command them. Now, the Hocotate Fright ship is very useful here because it stored all of the data, all of the information, all the notes that Olimar did in the first game. So it's able to talk about everything that has happened. It says, Olimar, according to the notes, the red Pikmin will listen to you if you call them over with your whistle, press B, you know, things like that. The ship also links communication between Olimar and Louie so that they're able to exchange information. So that's how Louie was able to figure things out. So the goal in this game is to collect as much treasure as you can to pay off the debt for your company. And hopefully get that SS Dolphin back, because that'd be nice. Olimar and Louie then find a cave. This is something new. Pikmin 1 had no caves, but in Pikmin 2, there are caves. These caves are randomized, meaning every time you go into the cave, it will be different. Olimar and Louie find this half globe in there. In order to carry the globe, you need more than 100 Pikmin. That doesn't make any sense. The max number of Pikmin that you can have on in your squad outside in the overworld is 100. Well, later into that cave, you find the purple Pikmin. Now, this is an interesting take because the purple Pikmin does not actually have an onion. Instead, it's a flower bud that you have to throw the Pikmin in, and then it converts them into a purple Pikmin. Stated to be very heavy, very strong. He slams his legs like a sumo wrestler, and he's very hairy. So I guess you can say he's just like the manly like construction worker guy in Pikmin. Able to carry the globe, they're able to then use the globe to chart out the maps and then find a new area. The treasures, by the way, are all real-world items. For example, the first treasure you find in Pikmin 2 is a Duracell battery. This hints that the Pikmin world is in a timeline after humans went extinct. There are new obstacles in another cave that require you to survive poison. Well, purple Pikmin can't survive poison, so what can you do? Well then, there you go. You find a new Pikmin type, the white Pikmin. And the way that you get the white Pikmin is the same way you get the purples. It's a white flower bud, and when you throw the Pikmin in there, they convert into white Pikmin. These white Pikmin are able to find treasure underground with their red beady eyes. And not only that, but they can take out poison obstacles, and they themselves are immune to poison. And if a monster eats a white Pikmin, they're poisonous. Both the white Pikmin and the purple Pikmin do not have onions. So they actually store themselves inside the ship. You know, at the end of the game, where do they go? I don't know. And if you look at some of the future games of Pikmin, unfortunately white and purple don't seem to have a kind of future, so we don't know what happened to them. Eventually you pay off the debt, and President's like, yes, yes, beautiful, come back home. Olimar and Louis set out to go back home finally. I guess, man, I feel like Olimar is just ready, man. He wants to eat a hot dog and watch the game and say hi to his kids and his wife. This guy, man, poor Olimar. Well, while we're leaving the planet, something bad happens. See, Olimar is saying goodbye to the Pikmin one final time. Wait, not final. He looks back at the cockpit and realizes that Louis fell off the ship again. Louis, what the heck, man? It's too late. Olimar was already set sail to this planet, and when he landed at the Hakatte Fright, he was trying to tell the president, yo, Louis gone. But the president was like, you paid the debt, good job. And the president was like, wait, are you saying there's more treasure on that planet? Well, the president's like, get back out there and make us rich. Louis! Louis not there. So the president's like, fine. What do I gotta do? Kill some bugs? And I can get all the money I want? I'll do it. Olimar and the president make their way to the final area in the game called the Wistful Wild. They basically just collect treasure for fun, and they're fighting some of the toughest bosses in the game, including the Water Wraith, and then the upcoming Titan Dweevil. The Titan Dweevil hangs out in the Dream Den. Oh boy. See, in the Dream Den, it's basically the final boss in the game. Once you make your way all the way down, you'll find Louis. But hold on, he's attached to a Titan Dweevil, amongst other things. This is a huge Dweevil, and what's going on is it's attaching all these different weapons. Seems like there's an evolution going on here. See, this is not some normal Dweevil. This Dweevil, he's choosing what he wants to attach to himself. This final boss is really gonna test your skills of the game. Oh man. He has poison, he has fire, he has electricity, and he has the most annoying water power-up where he spouts water up in the air and it goes all throughout the area and you know, rains on your Pikmin and they freak out because they're covered in water. Nonetheless, you use the Pikmin to take out those items that are on those weapons and those items that are attached to the Titan Dweevil. Eventually, there's nothing left and the Titan Dweevil is defenseless. Take it down and you get Louis. Louis is unconscious. His suit put him in deep sleep, but he's okay. This concludes the end of the Pikmin 2 game. Once you complete all the treasure, defeat the final boss, and get Louis, you get the good old cutscene. Olimar's ship starts up, you start heading off, and Olimar gives one last look. Yes, this time there's no missing Louis. The president doesn't fall off the cockpit. No. This time, for real, the ship heads off, back home, and Olimar gives one last look back down at the planet and sees all the Pikmin looking up at him and saying their farewell. They're very transparent though. It makes me think back onto my theory in Pikmin 1 where those onions were actually Pikmin spirits. I like to think as well that in Pikmin 2, those were not Pikmin, those were Pikmin spirits, saying their farewell and their thank you for bringing them back to the top of the food chain. And that concludes Pikmin 2. So we went through the story of Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2. But we're not done yet. For this video we are. However, I'll put together another video talking about the lore, about some of the theories. You see, to end this video, I want to say that in the game itself, Olimar doesn't believe that Louis was held captive by the Titan Dweevil. It was the other way around. Now you might say, oh, Olimar is just thinking. But the Hakatate Fright ship itself also backs up Olimar's statement, and it agrees. We'll talk more about this later. For now, Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, you're all caught up on the story, and I still recommend going off and playing those games because they're amazing. I hope to give it, you know, a kind of a remaster edition or a port, because if we can play all the Pikmin games on Switch, that would be beautiful. Pikmin 3 comes out, as of this recording, Pikmin 3 comes out tomorrow. It's already been out for like Australia, but for me, at least, it comes out tomorrow. So, really excited. Pikmin 3 is an amazing game, and Pikmin 3 Deluxe is filled with new content. Here's the fun part. You've been learning about Olimar and Louis this entire video, right? Well, Olimar and Louis' stories will continue in Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which it did not continue in the Wii U version. So, have fun with that. Until then, until our next video where we talk about lore or Pikmin types, or even tutorials on the bosses. Until then, farewell, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys later.